Alright, so we're about to do a oil pressure test. We've got the car kind of wired up. I haven't tuned it. I haven't even switched any of that stuff. We still got, there's electrical work to do, although most of the wiring's done. But I want to make sure we get oil pressure, so I just dumped some oil in it, and we're going to hit the starter. We'll be able to see battery volts, battery amps. This is oil pressure, so hopefully we get oil pressure, and we'll see how long it takes. Here we go. 2, 1... Nice. Looks like it took about 20 seconds, maybe a little more, but we got oil pressure. Now let's try now that the system's been primed. Oh, that's so cool. Nice. Alright guys, so we got the computer plugged in. We got our firmware updated, our Tuner Studio MS Ultra stuff going. And we're checking some sensors. So you can see here, here's our map sensor. We're showing 44 pounds. We just went above that using an air pressure gun. And we've got a boost gauge, which you can see right here. It's showing 35. But the thing is, the gauge only goes to 35. So I was checking the gauge versus the computer. They were basically identical all the way to about 34. And then once you hit 35, the gauge stopped, and MS3 kept going. We got up to, like, I'll show you in a second, I think like 44. So here's our setup. We just got an air gun blowing into the lines. So kind of good that these show the same thing. We actually found a vacuum leak doing this, so glad I did the test. But let's see, yeah, here we go. We're actually above 44 right now. It's just this won't go any higher. It's a 3-bar map, or 4-bar, or whatever it is. It's as many as it gets, so basically 400 kPa, just over. That's all she's got. But this was a good test. Needed to know if our map sensor was actually accurate, and it turns out it is, which is good news. Here's our reference. I don't know if that shows up. We're over 50. Yeah, we're going over 50 here, so that's all she's got. We may have to get a bigger map sensor, but I'm not sure, because this turbo is probably, that's probably all this turbo can do until we get a bigger one. But anyway, we're still going through. We got a lot of stuff to adjust, but I thought this one was neat. And you get to see the boost gauge show high numbers. So won't be long before we're pegging that thing out at the racetrack. Alright guys, so we've been working, and we didn't have sync. So we're spinning it over, and we didn't see any like cam or crank signals. We used the software. There's really nothing coming up. Checked my wiring. Wiring's good. Then I started looking in the manual, and I realized what it is. So on MS3 Pro, these have wires for the cam and crank, but what they don't have is a pull-up resistor on those wires. So they expect the signal to go high and low on its own. Now, the Miata sensors, they only pull it to ground. They don't do anything else. So the factory ECU has pull-ups that pull it up, and then when the sensor hits, it pulls it down. The sensor pulls it down, the ECU pulls it up. So we had to wire some resistors in, no big deal, did that. Now we got our signals. So what's the next problem? Well, the next problem is we don't have fuel pressure. We've spun this thing over several times, still haven't got fuel pressure, so I decided to do the obvious thing, which is crack a line and see if we got fuel coming out. And she's dry, and the line underneath has fuel. I cracked it, and fuel poured out. So I got fuel getting to the pump, but it's not coming out of the pump. So the list of things this could be is pretty short. My guess is I got the pump in backwards. I have it labeled, which means I would have labeled it backwards too. Admittedly, it was hard to tell which way it went, but I thought I had it right. So maybe I got the pump in backwards. I actually don't remember if you can do that, or I don't know, not sure. But we're not getting fuel pressure. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to spin it over probably for like 2 seconds like this, and I'm going to record with a tripod, I suppose, make sure the pulley's actually turning, that somehow this isn't like not spinning, because I can't see this and the starter at the same time. So I'm going to do that. We'll see if fuel comes out. We'll see if this is turning. If it's turning, and it's been turning this whole time, and we don't have fuel, I'm guessing the pump's backwards, if that's the case. So we'll go from there. I don't know. But damn, we're close. Okay, so I checked the directions. According to the instructions, I have the pump installed correctly. However, I suspect the instructions are wrong. So we're about to find out. I'm going to pick the car up. I'm going to loosen the belt, remove the belt off the pulley. And I've been spinning it the correct direction according to the instructions, and it doesn't pump fuel. But since I got fuel going to the bottom of the pump, I'm going to grab the pulley and spin it backwards and see if fuel starts coming out of the top of the pump. And if it does, I'll know the instructions are wrong. So let's see what happens. Okay, so it looks like the instructions are right. I have no idea why this wasn't working before. I tried spinning it backwards and it just didn't seem right. So then I just tried turning it forward by hand. That didn't work. So what I did is I put a bolt and a ratchet where I could spin it, and it did not take long. And watch this, I'm going to spin it and you'll see fuel. You can literally see fuel coming out. It definitely going the right direction now. So, okay, pump's installed correctly. I guess for some reason, maybe there was a bunch of air, but it just wasn't like getting a prime. I have no idea, honestly, but maybe it just had air in it. Anyway, it's definitely pumping now, so we're gonna hook all this back up and, well, let me think about it. Maybe I'll try to hook the hose up and spin this manually. I don't know. Hell, it's pumping pretty good. Like, I'm barely turning this with a ratchet. I mean, look at this. I'm kind of shaking it, but there's a good amount of fuel coming out of that. So, I kind of think it'd be okay on the starter now. Anyway, it's turning. We're going to get this put back together. Hopefully we get some fuel pressure. At least we got fuel flow now, and we're certain we're turning it the right direction at this point. Alright. Some progress, I guess.